when we're talking about sort of being healthy on a daily basis, I mean, I suppose a lot of you will have seen my and Angela's Why Supplements talk and talks about InCelligence and things like that. We're always keen to stress that health is multifactorial. It's not about just taking a few supplements and you're in good health. We have to think about, getting out in the sunshine, get outside in the fresh air, do some exercise, hydrate properly, drink and eat the right kind of stuff, do some exercise. All these things play a big part in keeping us healthy. So when I do these talks, normally I'm keen to stress, first of all, what's at the bottom of this pyramid, which is kind of a spiritual or emotional component to our health, because that's where it all starts, really. We might, if we're surrounded by people that we don't get on with, and we're in a job that we hate, and we're not getting outside in the sunshine and all these things, then it doesn't matter what supplements we take to some extent. So it's really that they provide the icing on the cake. But I think as civilization evolves, so does a lot of detrimental things, like pollution and the compromising of the quality of the food we eat. So it makes the argument for supplements a stronger and stronger one. So first of all, we have to sort of answer that question, why do we need to supplement at all? And that's an evolving question. And then if we accept that we should, why the CellSentials above anything else? So that's what we believe after, being in the industry for a long time. I've never seen anything that I would say really competes. there's some good products out there, but I would say nothing that competes in such a comprehensive way as with the CellSentials. And that sort of, you'll have seen this, probably most associates will be familiar with this, but the fact that out of 1,600 products, we always come first is a pretty good testament to the quality of the products that USANA makes. So, why are we different? When we look at nutritional companies, it's quite often just a marketing exercise with a kind of nod to the science. And USANA is very much the other way around. So they are rooted in science. And to look at I think there's 19 PhDs now, it may even be, they keep recruiting people, and some fantastic quality scientists. When I look at companies, usually, they don't have a PhD at all. If they've got one, that's a pretty good company usually, because at least they've got someone with some real sort of depth of knowledge. But with USANA, we've got 18 or 19 or 20 or whatever it is now, backed up with 85 scientists in total, and a wealth of research that's done with universities and hospitals around the world, making all their stuff in-house. Really, really important, because they've got complete control over things. And I know even very well-respected companies in the industry, they don't do this. They're still shipping out to other people to make their products for them. And again, they've got to then market their name so that everyone goes, oh yeah, that's such and such is a good company. But are they really? Do we really know? With USANA, we know everything, because there's so much transparency to it. And the making to pharmaceutical grade, they were the first company in the world to say, actually, nutrition is important enough that we need to do that. So sort of coming on to the question of why supplement at all, it is because the world's changing. So the way that we grow food, our food supply, the storage of food, the processing of food, animal husbandry, which is terrible. And then you've got these huge, great multinational companies that basically control our food supply. And the thing with multinational companies is their principal driver is to make a ton of profit. They're not thinking about how do I produce the best food to keep everyone healthy. They're thinking about how can I increase my share price from this to this. And there's been a sort of big evolving thing over the years. So you can see on this, the amount of phosphorus, selenium, copper, magnesium, all these things over the years in the soil are decreasing. And these things don't come out of the air. You have to get them out of the food that you eat, and that food has to have absorbed it from the soil in the first place. So if we've got all these things decreasing, it means that our health is going to be compromised. And there's a big argument for supplementation. The other part of this, of course, is that we've increased the amount of pollutants and pesticides in the world by an incredible amount. And so our body, our liver, all our detoxification systems in the body have to work harder to do that. And what drives those detoxification systems is enough protein, firstly, and then enough antioxidant, enough micronutrients for all the reactions in the body to happen. So, excuse me, in the Second World War, end of Second World War, they found that they had lots of chemicals made over from making bombs, basically, and they specifically, these were nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and they thought, what can we do with all these chemicals? And they found, we can use them as fertilizers. We can grow plants on these things. And they found that just with those 3 chemicals, you can actually, produce what looks like a healthy plant. But what looks like a healthy plant and what is a healthy plant are 2 different things. So if you're just putting those 3 nutrients into the soil, the plant is growing weaker and weaker as the other micronutrients in the soil they disappear. With each harvesting, they're going to disappear gradually out of the soil. And so you've got a plant that's weaker. And what do they do then? Well, some of these companies, these massively multi-billion-dollar companies, they come along and go, well, we can sell you pesticides to stop things attacking the plants. So now you've got a weaker plant with lower micronutrients. You've got a pesticide on top of it. One of the big things, and you can see from this, the increase in, now this could be coincidence, but I don't think it is, but the increase in all these things, obesity, cancer, asthma, bone deformities, etc., has gone along with the lowering of minerals in the soil, but also, I think even more so, with the abuse of the way we farm. So spraying glyphosate specifically, I think, on crops, and they found that only about 1% of that glyphosate ends up on the crop anyway. 99% of it ends up in our air, food, and water. So 75% of all air and water that we breathe in and that we drink is contaminated with glyphosate. Every wine that's tested from the United States has glyphosate in it, for example. So this thing disrupts our microbiome. It also ruins the health of the soil. So the start of agriculture starts in the soil. So is there a strong case to supplement? I would say from those two points, very much so. You jotted something. Was that for you?
That's for me.
Okay. So anyway, that's a sort of background to why we supplement at all, because the health of the human body depends on having enough micronutrients, and if it hasn't got enough micronutrients, it can't work efficiently. So anyway, back to the reformulation, I think the reformulation is probably, there's not huge changes, but science does evolve, and there are certain things that, given the relabeling opportunity this year which has come about, there's also the chance to maybe tweak the formula a little bit, and we'll talk about a few of those tweaks as we go through. So basically, this is where you start. If given that you've got your spiritual and emotional thing pretty much sorted, and your exercise regime sorted, and you eat good food, and you have quality relationships and all those things, and you drink water and you get outside, then how do you optimize your health in a sort of biohacking way, let's say, is you supplement. And if you value yourself, you're going to supplement with the best stuff out there. And for my money, that is the CellSentials. This is just a quick confusing diagram about where all these, it's really sort of tiny in detail, but this is where all the enzyme pathways in the body are sort of represented on this diagram. And all these enzyme pathways are catalyzed by amino acids, micronutrients, vitamins, phytonutrients. So that's all happening. And we talk about in USANA sort of cellular nutrition. Well, in fact, the whole industry talks about cellular nutrition. They talk about this happens at a cellular level, like that's something amazing. Now, if I drank I don't know, like 2 pints of engine oil, my cells are going to react to that on a cellular level. Everything happens at a cellular level. So that buzzword of sort of, oh, it happens on a cellular, it doesn't actually mean anything. Everything happens at a cellular level. The difference with USANA is you've got cell biologists who understand how cells work. And that's where, you know, the whole of Myron Wentz's background is in growing human cells in the laboratory. So at the time, you know, he would have been a world expert. There's no doubt about that in cellular nutrition. And the fact that he was able to keep cells alive indefinitely in the laboratory is testament to that. So when people say, oh yeah, it's cellular nutrition, yeah, of course it is. But is it good for you or is it not good for you? And do the scientists involved with making these formulas actually understand how that cellular nutrition works? Okay, that's me done, I think. So I'm going to hand over to Angela for a little bit. Have a rest.
Yeah, so the CellSentials are really, as we know, they consist of antioxidants and minerals, and these work together. You very often see, well, you see doctors prescribing calcium and vitamin D for bone health, or, you know, vitamin B12 for energy levels. But without the synergy, without these multiple nutrients working together, it's really not serving our bodies in the best way possible, because the body doesn't just work off a few nutrients. Everything in the body, you saw that diagram a couple of slides ago, the body is incredibly complex, and it's very naive of us to believe that we can solve a problem by just putting in one type of nutrient or two types of nutrients. It's almost an insult to nature to think that we know better. So we really have to have this broad spectrum, everything working together, which we call synergy. So yeah, it doesn't make sense to just go out and get some minerals, or just go out and get some vitamin C for your immune health, for example. And the other amazing thing about CellSentials is that it has this, what they call the InCelligence Complex, which is a patented blend of phytonutrients, which are chemicals from plants that work in our bodies to trigger certain reactions. It's incredibly complex, and the scientists at USANA have been working on it, on this blend for many years. And once they discovered the correct, or the optimal blend and the optimal amounts of each ingredient, they then applied for a patent. And the patent took about 4 years, which sounds like a long time, but in the patent industry, for a patent application to be passed, it often takes a decade, or sometimes the application will just never be accepted. So this was actually a landmark patent. It was so important in the industry, and it took 4 years, which is really quick. And this InCelligence technology is based on the fact that our cells make their own antioxidants. And these antioxidants, so we put in vitamin E, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D. These are antioxidants that we put into the body, that we get from plants, fruits and vegetables. But the antioxidants that we have, that our cells make, are 100 times more powerful than these external ones. So those are called endogenous antioxidants, because they're made by the body, by the cells themselves. And what this patent does, or what the formula does that was patented, is to upregulate so to trigger these systems that produce these endogenous antioxidants. And they found in their testing, in their clinical testing, that it actually supported systems that are acknowledged to make us live longer. So basically we can say that the InCelligence technology helps our bodies to do the things that make it live longer.
But we can't say we live longer.
No.
Not quite.
But we can say that we're supporting the systems that are associated with longevity.
Yeah, read between the lines, basically.
Yeah. So this is all based on cell signaling. And on the outside of you, this is an incredibly complicated diagram, which I'm not going to go into, but it just shows you what the level of knowledge that these scientists at USANA have, that they're looking at when they're developing these formulas. So on the outside of a cell, you've got a receptor, and when something lands in that receptor, when it's recognized by the receptor, it triggers a whole cascade of reactions, and the cascade ends in the production of these particular antioxidants, these powerful chemicals, powerful molecules that then reduce inflammation and help the immune system. One of those is glutathione, you might have heard of. Another one is superoxide dismutase. So there are quite a few of these powerful molecules. So yeah, moving on. Which I can't do.
So I was just trying to put Angela off by checking the chat, and there weren't any questions yet.
So this is just a slide to show, to represent the cell signaling that's going on in the body every single second. So things are being switched on and off, depending on what is landing in these receptors, and switching the lights, switching the points on the tracks, if you like, and making things go one way or the other to achieve a certain result in the body, which is fascinating. Here's a simplified diagram of it. So the signaling molecule, which might be curcumin or hesperidin or rutin, which are in part of the InCelligence technology formula. This lands in the receptor, and then that triggers one molecule, which then triggers another one and triggers another one, and then you get this cellular response in the cell. And then, you know, when this rolls out to every cell in the body, or these a large number of cells in the body, you have the macro effect. So that aside, we've got the core minerals and the antioxidants. So the minerals had so many uses. I mean, we think of minerals as primarily for bone health, but there's so much more to minerals. They are actually an antioxidant. Many minerals are antioxidants themselves, like selenium, zinc, thank you. So both of those things help the immune system. Selenium is extremely important for the thyroid, as is iodine, which isn't a mineral. You've got, yeah, all these things are working together with the antioxidants to help the nervous system, bones and joints. I mean, you can read it for yourself. They've also put some vitamin C in the minerals, poly C, which is USANA's special blend of vitamin C. It's got four different types of vitamin C ascorbates, which in their research, in their clinical trials, were shown to have higher levels in the blood for longer than just the ordinary vitamin C. And then, so it works together with the antioxidant, Vita antioxidant. And the antioxidants, of course, come from fruits and vegetables. And then you've got other ones, such as vitamin K2, which we've got a nice good level of in this formula, which comes from cheese, grass-fed cheese, grass-fed butter, if you can feed butter on grass, not sure, and organ meats, and also fermented foods.
Yeah, we did a whole talk on vitamin K2 actually, so we think it's massively important.
It's mega, yeah, well worth watching that if you can. Well,
if you can stand to
find
watch
it.
more.
So antioxidants, what do we use them for? Well, again, it's the same list of things basically, because as we were saying earlier, everything works together. And I mean, you've got repair. You need, for example, you need vitamin B12 for repairing the body. So when you go to sleep at night, your B12 is working to repair anything that's in need of repair. The antioxidants help your immune system. When people start taking CellSentials, very often the first results that they notice, or the first differences, the first changes that they notice are differences in their skin, the quality of their skin, the nails, their hair. The nails get stronger. I've heard this so many times from customers and from friends who are taking the CellSentials. Their nails, which were brittle before, are suddenly within a few weeks they're strong and not flaking. I had that experience myself. The hair is better quality, and they also find that they have more energy, and so good levels of B vitamins are so important. They're absolutely essential for energy levels. And, you know, David was mentioning, I think that, or did you mention that B12 and the B vitamins are made by our gut bacteria?
Not in this talk.
You haven't mentioned it, right. So yeah, the B vitamins are made by the gut bacteria, but our gut bacteria very, very often are disrupted by so many things, by the food we're eating, by the glyphosate that David was mentioning. And so we're really not getting enough B vitamins to support our energy needs. We're actually, I think a vast proportion of us are eating very high carbohydrate diets, refined carbohydrates, which are incredibly draining on the B vitamins, because in order to produce energy, you need the B vitamins, but to deal with these refined carbohydrates, to turn them into energy, you're actually using more B vitamins than you need to.
Nature knows this. So when we eat a whole grain, it's got loads of vitamins and minerals in it.
Yeah, it's got the B vitamins on the outside. Yeah.
And the more we do to it to refine it, we think, oh, that's really good. We've got this fine white flour. That's fantastic. And that's now nutritionally devoid, really, of all these micronutrients. And then we put a few back, and now we call it enriched flour. But we've taken 20 out in the first place, so it's not actually enriched at all. So that's the problem with all of our sort of food processing.
Yeah. So you're depleting the very things, just by eating these refined carbs. You're depleting the very things that you need to produce the energy. And you think that these refined carbs are going to give you energy, but actually they're having the opposite effect. Apart from, ruining your blood sugar levels and all sorts of things that are at the basis of chronic disease. So then, yeah, we've got antioxidants like vitamin D3, which is normally associated with bone health, with rickets. It helps to absorb calcium in the body. But you've also got K2, which is a fat-soluble vitamin, which is also involved in, well, bone health, but also cardiovascular health. As we said, go and watch that video to find out more about K2. You've got vitamin A. All these are involved. I mean, like I was saying on the previous slide, we think of minerals as being involved in bone health, but you've got all these vitamins involved in bone health too. So D3, K2, vitamin A, vitamin B12, and vitamin C, which is needed for collagen production. And collagen is the foundation of bone mineralization. So there are so many uses for vitamin C, and that's just one of them. Oops, next slide is over to you. Oh no, lycopene. So I think with the new formulation, it's given USANA the opportunity to add in extra amounts of things where there's been a lot of research since the old formula was developed. There's a ton of research on lycopene, for example, which is found in large amounts in tomatoes. And incidentally, if you want to get lycopene from tomatoes, it's more bioavailable if you cook those tomatoes in oil. So olive oil, make a tomato sauce with olive oil, and you'll get more lycopene into your system. But lycopene is one of those carotenoids, which is a great antioxidant. It's known, there's research on lycopene and skin health, cardiovascular health, including LDL oxidation, which is, people talk about your levels of cholesterol, but actually what's important is how much of that cholesterol is oxidized, and lycopene is one of these brilliant antioxidants that can reduce the oxidation of LDL cholesterol. Lycopene is also involved in bone health. It prevents something called bone resorption, which is very much associated with osteoporosis. So the more lycopene you can get, the better your bone health will be, alongside all these bone minerals and vitamins. It's also really there's a lot of research on lycopene and prostate health. So a lot of prostate supplements will contain saw palmetto and lycopene and other ingredients. And then there's some research on cognitive function, mainly because again, of the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties of it. And that's over to you.
Okay, yeah. In fact, lycopene was the first thing I ever heard about in nutrition at university. I just remember seeing this thing saying there's this thing called an antioxidant and it has an effect on prostate health. And that was a long time ago. But yeah, it was interesting that's actually the first time I heard about, the first time I was aware that there was a science of nutrition at all, really. And it was pretty early days then. So yeah, another thing that they've improved with this new formula is the amount of chromium in there. Now, more doesn't always mean better, by the way, but in the case of chromium, I would say it definitely does. And one of the biggest problems we've got is obviously with with metabolic syndrome, which manifests itself as increased blood pressure and increased weight gain, increased cholesterol, triglycerides, and eventually leads to diabetes. And that's one of our biggest problems. And again, we've done a talk on that. So if you you can look up all these talks if you like, but chromium, we don't talk much about the micronutrients in there, but chromium is essential for insulin function. And suffice it to say, we don't get enough. And I'm not saying it's the cause of diabetes, but it's one factor that will play a part in there. So yeah, very important. And I think we've gone from 100 to 250 micrograms in the new formula. So that's going to make our, well, I shouldn't make a sort of claim like this, but I would say you could argue that it would make our weight loss goals or fat loss goals more easy to attain. I think that would be reasonable to say that. In fact, I have a nutritionist friend who decided to take extra chromium on top of the essentials, CellSentials before, and she found she just lost too much body fat, and she thought she was getting too gaunt, which is interesting. Whether that, that's a study of one observed by herself. She might not have been eating it or anything, I don't know, but anyway, that was her observation. So okay,
yeah, lutein is an antioxidant, that carotenoid that is found in the macula. So that's the bit behind your eye, in the retina. And things that can affect, I mean, you hear about macular degeneration, which is affects older people usually.
So it's the leading cause of blindness. So
thank you.
It's important to
to
not be deficient in it.
Yeah, and things that can affect the macula are things like blue light from computers and mobile phones, and blood sugar. The macula is incredibly sensitive to blood sugar, and higher levels of blood sugar from eating all these processed carbohydrates can damage the eyes, and it's quite a problem. Retinopathy is quite a problem in diabetes. So the more we can do to support the antioxidation of the eye and anti-inflammatory properties of the things we're taking that support the eye, the better. So we can get, it's not one of these antioxidants that the body makes. It can only be got from the diet. It's found in egg yolk and green leafy vegetables, but I guess most of us are not really eating enough kale. So it's a great thing to supplement for eye health. And yeah, there's a ton of research on use of lutein in eye health.
Okay, so yeah, I won't go into all this stuff, but vitamin D is one of the other things. I mean, vitamin D just has an effect on pretty much every aspect of our biochemistry. So again, this sort of chance to revamp the formula a little bit. They've increased the amount of vitamin D from 2,000 to 2,800, which is all great. I mean, some of the in-house studies in USANA showed sort of that you'd need, for some people, 5,000 IUs to make a difference. But of course, we've got extra vitamin D as an extra supplement if we need it anyway in the catalogue. So, and the other thing, of course, is that this is not true for everyone, because we are all genetically different and some people need more than others. So there's a chance to establish a sort of better base level, but then we can also tweak that with the extra product. We have this thing that beyond the 37th parallel, as we get further away from the equator, our risk of cancer, heart disease, well, pretty much everything you can think of, multiple sclerosis, all these things, gets greater and greater as we go further north or further south away from the equator. And this is kind of the cutoff line where we reduce our ability to make vitamin D in our skin from sunlight by a huge amount, because the sun is just not strong enough above that 37th parallel to do anything. So, you know, we can attribute these things to loads of things apart from vitamin D deficiency, but it does play a part in all of these diseases. And I think this is one of the most telling statistics in all of nutrition, really. This is from the British Medical Journal a few years ago. The bottom line of this, vitamin D deficiency, the researchers estimated that roughly 13% of all deaths in the US, it's going to be the same here, could be attributed to low vitamin D levels. And that strikes me as an absolutely staggering statistic. You know, 1 in 8 people are effectively having their life cut short just because they haven't got enough vitamin D. So there's a brilliant reason to supplement with something that provides a comprehensive nutritional regimen with a great dose of vitamin D included in it. You'd usually not see levels that high in a multivitamin, but here we've got something which is quite exceptional, I think. I was taught at school, but again, that was a long time ago, that all the fat soluble vitamins were dangerous and we couldn't take, you know, we had to be really careful. But the science has evolved, and USANA's formula for vitamin D, I know they've increased it several times over the several years that they've been going, to increase the vitamin D, because the amount of research that's come out on it has been, well, off the charts. I think there's only one thing that's been studied more, which is turmeric in the literature. So there's a huge amount of stuff in the literature about the importance of vitamin D. And yeah, well, can't really overestimate its importance. So yeah, well, I won't go into all of that sort of stuff, but we have got a little talk on vitamin D, but we haven't done it lately.
And it's quite relevant in this day where everybody's talking about the immune system, because vitamin D plays several really important roles in the immune system. And there's lots. I mean, there are about 500,000 studies on vitamin D.
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive. Yeah. So yeah, this is obviously, you can go to Ask the Scientist and find out more stuff all the time. That is one of the great health resources on the planet, I think.